New day, and thank you very, very much indeed. This is the big issue segment. Straight away, the Energy Digest says Total Energies Commission first electric car charging unit in Ghana. Also, energy sector success story. It's leadership, not magic. And you have all the creme de la creme in there. That's Andre Japamesa's boss, Napo there. Dr. Baumia predicts renewable energy for Ghana by 2070 and petroleum downstream leaps 41%. The Daily Graphic says prayer comes not solution to breast cancer. Dr. Riafia Dai, electronic VAT invoices take off. 600 firms covered under first phase. Also, don't use radio to foment trouble in Boko. According to the National Media Commission, it's 48 days more, a countdown to the Qatar 2022. Asante Hene alarmed, bemoans rate of deforestation. ECG vending system improves, but many still can't access power. The Chronicle, Akufo-Addo commissions Tema Aliza Hotel. Also, Yana Lord's VIP for promoting religious tolerance. Golden Star Resources exceeds employment of foreigners quota. And the Mankasim murder. Grave digger allegedly arrested. Help government protect our natural resources, according to Jinapor. The Ghanaian Times, GRA digital VAT invoicing takes off today, set to eliminate abuse, increase revenue. Heavy rains destroy property, disrupt outdoor events at weekend nationwide. Also, police nab 16 over alleged Galamsey shooting, and ECOWAS AU condemn coup d'etat in Burkina Faso. Daily Statement, Yana Lords Baumia for religious harmony thrive. President Akufo-Addo honors pledge to Haruna Iseku. Tourism for economic transformation, $10 million hospitality training school in the offing, according to President Akufo-Addo. Ponkroma makes case for Ghana's cocoa and coffee industry, in that he admits also of the dangers associated with Galamsey. Daily Guide, we're building thriving tourism economy. Akufo-Addo. GRA rolls out EVAT invoice. We killed 4, say Mankasim killers. And don't reject our cocoa coffee upon Nkrumah. Also, Baumia extols Addo Kufuor, a former defense minister. BNFT, farmers surrender cocoa farms for Galamsey. Blame unfair income. Private businesses need to tighten their belt, and FAO forecasts global rice shortage next year as food import bill of vulnerable countries hits $25 billion. The Custodian, Ibrahim Mahama wins Emmy Africa Man of the Year Awards. Congratulations to him. Tourism sector is third contributor to GDP. Massive turnout for Ibri Ojira Walk. And you are destined for greatness. Dagbon King to Dr. Baumia. Also, NPP gives fitting farewell to Haruna Iseku, former national chairman. Let's manage our natural resources better. Lands Minister urges citizens. And laws should protect our cocoa or coffee sectors. Kojo Opon Nkrumah tells the European Union. The Finder newspaper, Dr. Baumia quest to harmonize religious diversity is commendable. Yana says so. Thriving tourism economy on course. And also, don't politicize Galamsey fight. Abu Jinapor. Last but definitely not least, the Ghanaian Observer. Dagbon Overlord eulogizes Baumia, says Veep is bound for greatness. President Akufo-Addo redeems pledge to honor Haruna Iseku, and government policies have impacted positively on Ghanaians, according to Richard Ahiagba. He is the National Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party. Also, Zoom Lions Patricia Ofuriata grabs big award, and Info Minister charges EU lawmakers. Don't politicize Galamsey fight, according to Lands Minister Samuel Abu Jinapor. My guest this morning, Andrew Ejapa Mesa. He is the Member of Parliament for the Sekunde constituency. He is also a Deputy Minister for Energy and a proud mass server. I serve.
We joined us.
And also joining me this morning is Comrade Murtala Mohammed. He is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, former Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. Kaula.
Alafi.
Right. So you're okay now.
I was actually lost.
He caught me off guard, you know.
Good morning, gentlemen. Bobo,
morning.
nice to see you again.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Right. Did you go to a constituency this weekend?
I was there for the whole of last week, actually.
Okay.
I came back on Friday evening to attend to some social events.
And how's the constituency doing?
Not too bad. Still a lot more that can be done. And, we just have to keep our shoulder to the wheel and see what it is that we can do during our time.
Right.
Yeah.
I was in his constituency I think last month,
Okay.
when we went for the Public Accounts Committee,
Okay.
and I have some good friends there, so they took me, myself and the MP from Young Aziz, to come eat some kebab. They slaughtered the ram, and this was a zongo. It was strange that they spoke highly of him, and I was wondering what he's been giving them. I asked them, because even the road network there, they admitted that it was done by the NDC. But they were just fond of him. I don't know what he's been giving those young men there. I think we need to do a lot of work to just break that.
But I'm winning polling stations in Zongo for the first time. So
yeah, you won't win again.
But I went there with to his constituency with Winston, and the feedback was good.
No,
from the constituency, exactly. I don't know what he's been giving them.
No, but the road network there. In fact, I asked them who did the road, and they said it was done by President Mahama. So I said, oh, so but why?
But
there must be something. There must be something this gentleman is doing.
Obviously, we all see that governance is a continuum.
That's right.
There are roads in Sekendi that were done
my interest is
Mr. Mohammed's time.
My interest is those particular routes.
And there are roads that are being done way after Mr. Mohammed's time. So
my interest is those routes.
Okay.
I mean, beautifully done, very neat.
You don't see why
that's not my interest.
You don't see why he should be giving credit for.
Yes,
for it.
Honestly, I
let me say good morning to my Zongo brothers and of course to all the people of Sekendi.
I see. We'll talk about Galamsey, but there's a mining company, Golden Star Resources. We're told that has exceeded employment of foreigners quota, and we've been talking about local content and how they should stick to a certain quota. We're told that this particular company, and there's a story on page 7 of the Chronicle called from Asunaba Media Online.com. It indicates that the government is set to lose huge revenue in the mining sector. Some Chinese nationals at the Golden Star Resources, a member of the Shifan Geelong group of companies in Wassa Achimpim in the Western region, have now taken positions that are meant to be occupied by Ghanaians, a situation that has raised concerns by the workers. And they say they feel betrayed because some of those big roles, positions like human resource, HSEC, health, safety, environment and community, as well as commercials and finance, have currently been taken over by Chinese nationals, even though there is a infringement on the local content regulation and the infringement on the local content regulation that could generate unprecedented demonstration against the company and the government. But let me throw this to you. In this day and age when we're trying so hard to fight Galamsey, we want to regularize mining and to make sure that it's being done properly. You don't want these aggrieved people to go out there because they are not getting their quota and they are seeing that the foreigners are becoming more than them on their own land, and to breed rancor. I don't know what you think about it.
Well, I think that whatever concerns that they are should be channeled to the appropriate agency, in this case the Minerals Commission, because they will be the body that will be supervising the implementation of the local content and localization rules within the mining sector. When it comes to the energy sector, especially the upstream space, is the Petroleum Commission that manages that local content localization policy, and they are pretty much strict in the enforcement of ensuring that Ghanaians take commanding heights within the sector. Of course, there are some skill sets that are not available in country, and so then the companies will have to make a justification why they have to bring foreigners in. I don't think that human resource management, such role function, will not have qualified Ghanaians in here that would occupy that position. That's requiring Chinese, nationals occupying those positions. So I think that they should channel it through the Minerals Commission, and I'm sure that they would insist on the company doing the right thing by employing Ghanaians to occupy those roles as opposed to Chinese people, because it's very important. When these people come in, they get to be paid expatriate. That then increases the cost of operations and, of course, reduces your profit, and so that then, by necessary implication, affects the taxes that government then is due. Okay, so it's important that we insist that roles that Ghanaians can occupy within our natural resource space are strictly reserved for Ghanaians and no other.
Mutala, so Ghana has 10% shares in this company, and the Chinese have 90% shares. But of course, they are not too happy that the cake is being shared, and their portion of the cake is also being, sliced bit by bit for the foreigners. Is it a case that we don't have the professionals within that space to man these positions, or they are there but we just behave with impunity, forget about the regulations and the laws, and decide to do our own thing?
Well, Johnny, let me say good morning to you and good morning to my mischievous friend. It's been a long while since we have shared the same platform, and of course the good people of Tamale Central. And if you permit me just to add that I know that the contestants of various positions within the Tamale Central constituency, people have picked their forms, submitted. My understanding is I think the vetting is starting today or tomorrow. I'm not too sure. I wish them all the best. I am fortunate to have outstanding executives that I have worked with, particularly the constituency chairman, and I really enjoyed working with them. I think that it's been very peaceful. There is nothing wrong with anybody contesting any of them. There is nothing wrong. I just urge that it moves peacefully. But one thing I can say with certainty is that I enjoyed working with them.
Would you like to work with them again?
Absolutely. And the kinds of work we have done, the infrastructure, the improvement, the kind of things we did in the constituency, certainly I wouldn't have been able to accomplish them without the current crop of executives. And I must sincerely state that they played a critical role in ensuring that we achieve some of the things that we have achieved. I really would love to work with them. I agree with the aspects of what my brother said. I think that it is not only the Minerals Commission, the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority. You see, the difficulty we have in our part of the world is the lack of synergy or the interlinkages that ought to exist between and among ministries and agencies. Our GIPC laws are very clear. In every investment that should be done in this country by any foreign entity, the laws are very clear, the number of your staff who should be Ghanaians. So if you are not able to meet it, there can't be an excuse of the difficulty of getting people with that expertise. In fact, even if you read the law carefully, it tells you that even where you are lacking the expertise, you are enjoined to build the capacity of locals who you have employed to do that work. I think we have allowed too many of the implementations or the enforcement of the laws that we ourselves... The enforcement of the laws that we ourselves indeed have made to regulate the activities of some of this. I'll give a classical example. For a foreigner to engage in a taxi business, that foreigner must have a minimum of 25 taxes. 25.
That's right.
Now you have foreigners who are engaged in all manner of business. Huba is a taxi business. Go to Tamale and many parts of northern Ghana. The yellow, the Mahama Kambu. You have a lot of foreigners who are engaged in it. Clear violations of laws that we ourselves have put in place. You go on the street of Tamale, you have a lot of foreigners who are engaged in the yellow business, which is a clear violation of our laws. You go to the market, go to the Tamale market, go to many other markets, you find foreigners who are engaged in retail business. Sometimes I can understand the frustration of the Guta people, but I've always told them that they sometimes over-politicize the activities of Guta. All their concerns are genuine. Every single country within the West African sub-region have such laws in their statutes. And they do that to protect their people. Because if you have foreigners who are engaged in retail business, you are crowding out, a lot of young people, a lot of Ghanaians who would have been engaged in that. So I think we need to look at it. If there were that collaboration between the GIPC, the Ministry of Trade, and I believe that the Minerals Commission, and perhaps the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, who would have been avoiding this, the supervisory and monitoring role of some of the state agencies also, come to question. If they were those arms within the agencies were active, we would have been avoiding some of these things. If you look at the GIPC, they have a supervisory and monitoring role to ensure that the laws that people who are operating in our country are supposed to adhere to, are they adhering to that? you know, I think that we need to look at it. And we would have to take this thing up as a member of the Trade, you know, and Tourism Committee of Parliament. I think that is a wake-up call. We need to take some of this.
They are worried about Golden Stars, the way Golden Star Resources is going because of the previous experience with the Ghana Manganese Company and the Ghana Bauxite Company. And they say it started in a similar fashion. Nobody was checking, and before they knew it, boom.
Yeah, John, that's what I'm
saying.
The monitoring and the supervisory role. It's like in this country, we make laws, we expect the laws to automatically be enforced. That is the challenge. Look, in Parliament, every committee has a mandate to monitor approvals that were made to ministries and agencies. And that is why some have argued that this committee, Government Assurance Committee, many people have argued that it should be chaired by someone from minority because it will be difficult. You find someone from majority who would call ministers who have made promises to the people of this country to find out why they are unable to execute those promises. And I think that there is a unanimous call. I am doing some work and I may not be able to share some of the information at the appropriate time. And I've had some unanimous concerns by members of parliament across, you know, the aisle, whose position is that, look, we need to look at how some of these committees are chaired, particularly government assurance. So the trade committee, we need to take this thing up to find out how are these, you know, foreign entities who are operating in this country are operating. We also need to find under the Ghana export, the free zones. The free zones authority and the enclave comes with some conditions. It's like once people have access to that, because we are so desperate to have investment, to create jobs, the other aspects of what they ought to respect with regards to the laws of their operation, we are not following them. We need to look at them carefully.
Okay, well, let's talk Galamsey now. Of course, it's
one of the few topics that will have unanimity, right?
Let's talk Galamsey now. And His Royal Majesty Otumfuo S.A Jinapor has been speaking again. Well, the sector minister, Samuel S.A Jinapor, says we should not politicize the fight against Galamsey. Some have said it's just another rhetoric. Others have said, well, it's a good call. Some have said, well, prove to us that your own people are not complicit in you know, raping the earth. But let's listen to His Royal Majesty Otumfuo S.A Jinapor II, and then we'll get back into the studio to have a conversation. And while we look for that video, Danny, maybe you'd play the video of the task force, right? It's not Ukraine, as A+ puts it, it's Ghana. Danny, play the video for me.
What's that kind of book? Hey, what channel? What channel? Hey, what channel? What channel? That's right, man. What channel? Hey, Monday, I'm right channel. Let's wait. Oracle, sit down. Oracle, sit down. Sit down. Oh, come here, come in. Hey, oh, Debbie, I'll go. Call your boys. Call your boys. Hey, call your boys. Hey, call your boys. Hey!
let's go. Young go. You guys know we are not close to the road.
The government set up a military police to do it. Why have we not been able to stop it? That's the point. Why haven't we been able to stop it? If you create a system where we say we will stop it, to the extent that the president says, I've put my presidency on the line, and yet it is going on, then to me, something is wrong somewhere. So we need to review why this is happening. Polluting our waters. And a case in point is I came back and hear that a Chinese woman who was supposedly deported back in this country also doing Galamsey again. Is it that our borders are porous? Or what? So what happened? And people know who are doing the Galamsey. They know the people are working there in the communities with those people. Because at the district level, we have the political administration there. You have the district chief executive. You have the district security council over there. And that district, there's a Galamsey going on. And you tell me we don't know who is there?
Same questions I've been asking here. We know. We do know. Bobo, this fight against Galamsey, we seem to be making too many statements instead of actually putting our money where our mouth is. What do you say?
Well, I don't think that we are not putting our money where our mouth is, except that there's a lot more that has to be done. Quite clearly, we are not winning the war at this point. And clearly, if we are to preserve our environment, you know, for the next generation, especially our water bodies and our forests, then it's important that we reset the clock entirely, you know, just so that we can make much more progress at bringing this menace to a halt than we've done in the past. I heard Donald Trump speak quite clearly. It's obvious that our traditional leadership are worried, our political leadership are worried.
Right.
But whether at the political level we can have that unanimity of mind, some consensus that we should leave the politicking with Galamsey and treat it as a national matter that we all, with a concerted effort, work to bring it under control. Because, Johnny, this issue didn't start today. If you take a cursory look of newspaper publications over the past 10 years, you will see that it's something that we've been struggling with at least by the past 2 or so succeeding governments. But in the run-up to the 2020 elections, we had comments that clearly were coming from some political quarters that really sought to embolden some of these people, making a charge that, look, when we are given the opportunity, we're going to provide some amnesty and allow you to do your work and all that. I mean, the president has consistently said that he's not the one who is going to stop mining, because God has given us these resources to exploit for our benefit. But in doing so, we all recognize the need for that exercise to be done in a responsible manner. And so if government takes action against people who obviously are not doing it in a responsible manner, we cannot then, if we are on the opposing side, turn around and say, hey, that clamp down, that seizure of your equipment is something that I would not do when you're giving me the opportunity. Then it goes into the political tailspin, and you are likely to get the governing party, because, you know, of the incentive to remain in power, to loosening the grip a little bit. And ultimately, we find ourselves where we are unable to deal with the menace head on. But I think that it's time for us to rethink, because clearly this thing is getting out of control. I drive over the Prairie River most of the time. Even when I fly, it's much more glaring. You see the damage that is being caused to the river bodies, especially. And very recently, we've had the news of some mining activity unauthorized in some forest reserve. And I was pretty much excited to see the statement that the minister issued stopping the activity.
Again,
of course, I've seen the statement from Occupy Ghana calling on the minister to go beyond just the statement and ensure that people are prosecuted. It's a call that I will endorse because illegality should not be countenanced at all, especially with respect to this Galamsey issue, because otherwise we won't have any country to live in.
His Royal Majesty says we cannot say we do not know
absolutely,
the people.
Yes,
we do.
We know them. They live in our communities.
And I'm reminded of Haji Ali Mahama, who was then local government minister, who mentioned, put all the DCs and MMDCs in this country in a room and told them, we know those of you engaged in Galamsey. Up until now, not one single person has been held. We have heard tapes. Recently, I heard one of an supposed MC on tape showing another person on a call that got leaked as to how we can get the Chinese in to come and do something because the Ghanaian compatriots were not, behaving well. We have seen the story about Elambele DCE, too many of them, and not a single person has been held for it, and we see is walking free.
You see, Johnny, I mean, some of these things, you need to do some investigation before you can actually prosecute, okay? But I agree to the call that the DCEs who have jurisdiction over the districts should be taxed with the responsibility, direct, for ensuring that these activities do not take place within their jurisdictions. And I think it's a call that we need to support, okay? I would expect that even we expect some prosecution, people who are clearly identified to be participating in these things, and it hasn't happened as of yet. It probably may be because some investigation is underway and hasn't been concluded. But then again, it's important that we make the call for people to be held accountable, because otherwise, then precedent is set where people get to abuse it, people get to break the law and go scot-free, okay? So I'm adding my voice to the call that some KPIs for district chief executives ought to be implemented and enforced. I hope my senior brother, Dan Boche, is listening to us. This is something that we cannot afford to lose at all. It's a war that we ought to fight together as a people in a concerted manner. Let's take the politicking out and let's find a way to ensure that we bring this thing under control. Of course, I'm sure Mutala will make the point because he was saying when we went on break that he thinks that small-scale mining should be banned for some time. Okay, because
was it not done before?
Well,
it was done before.
Yes, it was done before, and
for 2 years or so.
Absolutely, we all heard the cry of people whose livelihoods depended on small-scale mining. Safe to say, the truth of the matter is that artisanal mining is permitted in law, and people get licenses to undertake these artisanal mining, small-scale mining.
Right.
But the reality on the ground is, do they really undertake small-scale artisanal mining when they get the licenses?
The other
and so the community mining scheme was introduced to try and regulate that activity. But that also seemed not to be working. Because
politicians, again, have gotten in there. They are the ones who own the concessions for community mining.
Not necessarily. I mean, for the weekend, we heard of Akunta.
Akunta mining.
Yeah, but we all have known Untumi to be a miner from time immemorial. And so it may not necessarily be because he is a politician, that's why he's gone into mining. He is a miner who is now a politician, okay? So question is, how do you then distinguish his livelihood from his political activity? But obviously, if he's doing something that is untoward, which is against the law, then the call for him to be held accountable is something
It
that I
was
will endorse.
mentioned in that famous Party Hiasika video, Professor Frimpong Boateng, you will see, you remember?
Yes,
the
I do.
concessions. I don't know if the government has been interested to even investigate to close that matter. That matter was just left to go.
Well, I don't know
this
about
was
whether
the
it was
Minister
left
for
to
Environment,
go.
Science, Technology and Innovation at the time, who had put on the website of his ministry that 95% of the Galamsey fight was done. It was later pulled down. I took a screenshot of it.
Really?
Yes, I do. And I showed it here.
Okay.
You know, how it was there and how it was pulled down. 95%. So now, if the 5% is what we're grappling with, then I dare say that what we had in the past was
But of course, Johnny, a lot of water has gone on that bridge over the past 4 or 5 years, right? And clearly, if what we see on internet, what we see on TV screens is anything to go by, in fact, post Dr. Frimpong Boateng's era, we all saw the activity that the task force undertook to burn excavators at river bodies and all that. I think that, look, the reality is the wide stretches of land that you cannot police 24 hours. Okay, but like I said, if the call is to ensure that DCEs are then taxed and provided the resources. I saw one headline this morning where one DCE is calling for resources to be provided to the DCEs to enable them fight the Galamsey menace. I think that over the past couple of years, it's all been controlled from the central point. And so if it's about time for us to look at decentralizing the rollout and hold them responsible with respect to what pertains within their jurisdictions. And that's the way that we ought to go.
But nobody has been punished.
My own, of course. I mean, some of these things are not events, okay? I support the call for people to be held accountable. In any event, illegal act or crime never has an expiration period.
Okay.
And so if we are putting our shoulders to the wheel in a concerted manner, devoid of the politicking, to fight this thing head on, which I think we all ought to do, then yes, the call for people to be held accountable is one that I endorse fully.
Okay, let's start from the shooting we saw before His Royal Majesty's comments. The guns. I'm told that the task force police has arrested 16 of those people captured in the video, but you could see them in olive green uniforms. I don't know what task force is. I don't know where they got the permission to wield guns. And if you could watch the video, maybe Harriet, you play the video while we speak about it. You know, they were aiming their guns at people, like the policeman did yesterday, not in the sky, at people. Because if you have no intentions to hurt, you will go into the sky. But if you have intentions to hurt or kill or maim, you aim for the people. And that's what they were doing.
But there were no injuries or fatalities, were there?
I mean, it could have been worse.
No, I know. I'm only asking, just for purposes of...
But they were aiming. Mutala.
Johnny.
This is supposed to be a task force, defending the cause of the fight against Galamsey. I don't know who gave them the guns. I don't know where they got them from, who empowered them, who gave them the so-called uniforms. But this is not a police state.
Johnny, I guess when we had the first topic, my brother said that, at least we've all agreed on one particular topic. The bumptiousness of communication in the matter of this Galamsey, as is being demonstrated today, for me is legendary. Why? In one breath, he says that we should not politicize it. In another breath, he fell exactly in the ditch of politicization. And he said that, okay, this thing didn't start today. We agree. And that in the 2020 elections, you had certain political parties that were virtually promising amnesty for those who are engaged in Galamsey, and that they would go about engaging in the Galamsey without any difficulty.
Right.
No political party in this country did that. If you have an executive member of a political party makes a statement, it is not the representation of that party. And in fact, when that particular statement was made in that said meeting with those who are engaged in Galamsey, NDC officially disassociated itself from that statement. You want us to talk about statements made by national executive officers of MPP in which your party never distanced itself from them, and by extension, your party sanctioned it. Nobody. this thing is political. It is political because the current president, President Nana Addo, made it political. Look,
How did he do that?
In a serious democracy, this man should no longer be the president of Ghana.
Why?
President Nana Addo said he was putting his presidency online if he fails to fight the Galamsey. By all accounts, official accounts, it is getting worse. Nobody said Galamsey started today. We've always had Galamsey, but it got to the health when they began using these huge, excavators into it. People have been engaged in Galamseys for decades, if not centuries. People have been engaged in it. But the difficulty is the rate at which it is being taken. Under the NDC, there was, and I don't know how many times I have to make this statement on this program. When the NDC government deported 5,000 Chinese, I know they were disputing those figures. And the basis, it was my good friend Kojo Ponkruma, the basis on which they were disputing the figures provided by President Mahama and Honorable Yunus Afisene was the fact that the number of people who were deported per the information they got from the immigration service. Some who voluntarily wanted to be expelled.
That would be repatriation.
Exactly. Some. So the total number was 5,000. And in fact, those who were not Chinese were almost 200. I remember, as the Deputy Minister for Information, the Chinese were so angry over the deportation and the repatriation, you don't even know how you put them, of the Chinese from this country. They sent a high-powered delegation. The one who led the delegation can be christened as a prime minister. I mean, his stature in the Communist Party in China. When they came, His Excellency Emiseta of blessed memory, he was so angry, he recounted the historical diplomatic ties that Ghana have had with China, dating decades, if not centuries. And they didn't understand why we would risk, those diplomatic ties in the exercise that we were engaged in. Government of Ghana also had some loans from China. We had businesses with China. Now, when he finished, His Excellency Mr. Atta said, look, we recognize the relationship we have with China. We value our diplomatic ties, economic ties. But I want you to join the chopper so that you can see the water bodies. I was not part of the team that went. They took him. The next day when he came, he said, look, I agree with Ghana entirely and something ought to be done about this. Now, we did all those things. And in fact, there was some sanity as a result of the action that was taken by the NDC in fighting this. Now, prior to the 2006 election, you had Akwetia Galamseys, who did a video and said they financed the MPP campaign with the Galamseys money. Your party never distanced itself from that particular statement. It went viral. So clearly the NPP elections 2016 was financed partly by money from Galamsey. Again, Aja Lima, and I'm happy you made reference to that. Aja Lima is a big sister of mine, a very brilliant person. Aja Lima is a lawyer by profession. So Aja Lima will not speak like any other person. She had interactions with all MMDCs across the country. She didn't say we heard some of you. She said we know those of you who are engaged in Galamsey. We know. The president knows those who are engaged in Galamsey. Some of them are at the Flagstaff House. Look.
He knows?
He knows. He knows. The reason why I say he knows is that the president has a breakfast with the Minister for Interior and National Security every morning.
Right. Security
every
briefing.
Morning. Security briefing. So if he knows that, and there's no any dispute whatsoever about politicians who are engaged in Galamsey, about party boys and other people who are engaged in Galamsey. If our security agencies were active, and I have no doubt about the activeness and the information they have, they would have informed the president, ABCD are engaged in Galamsey. I know some people within the MPP National Executive who had just finished university not quite a long time ago. They are buying properties left, right, and center. Where did they get the money to do that? And it's not rumored that some of them are engaged in Galamsey. The issue about Wuntumi, it is not about he engaged in Galamsey for a very mining for a very long time or not. It is about the criminal extension of his license renewal, 13 years. When the laws are very clear, maximum 3 years. Why did they make it 13 years? That is the issue. You have the same Wuntumi who sat on national television and showcased gold bars, which were worth millions of dollars on TV. Did anybody invite him? Did the National Security or the BNI invite him? Gold bars, except that you want to feign innocence. We all saw it. Again, in this country, we have MPP women organizer when they confiscated excavators and burned them, her excavators were part. My position, and he made mention of that, why I think that we should stop small-scale mining for some time. When the president took that action, for 2 to 3 months, there was some sanity. The water bodies were restored, more or less.
But the illegal miners were still at it.
Then
you know what? The question is that I have a license to mine. You say stop all forms of mining. But they were complaining that people were still mining.
No, they said that the government, in fact, it was publicly. I mean, one of their spokespersons said that they stopped them and allow party boys to engage in the illegal mining. That's what they said. But I'm saying that if you are taking an action to stop the small-scale mining, not forever, for some time, and ensure that those party boys who are engaged in illegal mining are brought to book, everything is stopped. Look, I just have to commend the Asante Hine. One thing about him I respect so much is his courage to speak the truth to power. And he asked a question that we have been asking, that the MMDCs, who are the heads of security within the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, cannot tell us that they do not know those who are engaged in it. Now, recently, there was one, I think somewhere around Eastern region, where the chiefs and the people held a press conference and said an MPP MP who came and said that he had a concession to engage in mining. Look, the list said about my kid brother, the minister for lands, and who happens to be my uncle. I mean, it's about talking, talk, action. When they spent almost 5 million Ghana cedis in holding anti-Galamsey watch a day, does it even make sense? And nobody, the anti-corruption agencies were not interested in finding out how on earth could any institution or ministry spend 5 million Ghana cedis. 5 million, I think the special prosecutor should be interested in this. 5 million Ghana cedis in holding anti-Galamsey, meeting. I'm told the one in the northern part, they didn't even stay in the hotels. Isn't that ridiculous?
But the rooms were rented.
What rooms were rented? So, which hotels? Do you have a 5-star hotel in the north? Even 4-star hotel do we have? I think that the only one we have was in Bolga. They didn't have the program in Bolga. The others 4-star, 3-star. And they could spend that money. The information I got, they didn't even stay in there. So I'm saying that it is not just about talking. Act. Look, again in this country, you have Erastus Donko,
yeah,
the reporter at Lab FM, who did his expose, where he went to one area, military officers were instructed to go provide security for Chinese who are engaged in Galamsey. Military officers. Who instructed them? The commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. The president knew about their presence there. Because if he didn't know, assuming that it was the military leadership, no military officer can go engage in that without authorization or instruction. Is it that the head of the Minister for Defense and also the CDS, is it that they did that without the information of the president, assuming that they did that at the backside of the president? That thing was brought before. It was telecasted, it was aired everywhere, social media. Nothing happened. Not a scintilla of action has been taken by this president.
The point is that the president is not acting. That's why we are where we are.
No, he knows. He's an accomplice.
Oh,
I'm telling you. The president is an accomplice. Look, the reason why I will say he's an accomplice, he is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. He's the commander-in-chief. He must take action. Now, when you have leading members of your party who have been cited and identified, some of them captured on video, engage in this and nothing happened, why wouldn't I say he's an accomplice? Why wouldn't I say that? Now, where are those MMDCs? Mind you, some of them were reappointed. Haji Alima was not speaking recklessly, assuming that it was a reckless statement made by the Minister for Local Government. Why is it that no action was taken against the minister?
So this fight is a reality?
Look, the Asante Hine got it absolutely right that yes, we can blame some traditional authorities. Because mind you, the traditional authorities are also the custodians of the land.
Right.
But within this democracy that we practice, to some extent, the traditional authorities' powers are limited. If someone comes and says, I have a license, and that license was given to me by an appropriate and authorized state agency or a ministry, you cannot prevent me from doing that. Now, they hide behind these licenses and engage in Galamsey activities. Look, if you want us to depoliticize this Galamsey, then take actions that is demonstrable of your intention to depoliticize the entire Galamsey menace. Arrest those who are engaged in it. Aja Lima, I believe, who was a cabinet minister, and the Galamsey issue certainly would have been discussed at cabinet. So Haji Lima would have provided the information to government that these are the MMDCs we have information and engaged in Galamsey. Haji Lima wasn't the Minister for Interior or Minister for National Security. I strongly believe that she got the briefing from the Minister for National Security. And if the President takes his job serious, the Minister for National Security, who has breakfast with the President every morning, to give the President security briefing, would have told the President ABCD are engaged in Galamsey. Are we not being told that members of Parliament are engaged in Galamsey? We have been told. The members of Parliament are engaged in Galamsey. What are the responsibilities of the security agencies? And what are they doing to ensure that those who are engaged in this are brought to the back? I'm saying that it is serious. And for me, this thing is worse than terrorism.
Okay. Well,
because you see, and I just want to conclude on this. The livelihood of people are dependent on it. It is annoying when you hear people say that, oh, people don't have jobs, and that is why they engage in it. There can't be any justification whatsoever. Because you don't have job, you engage in Galamsey. So assuming tomorrow, someone decides that I don't have job, I want to start armed robbery because I don't have jobs. There can't be any justification. But the people, the political elite, who are given the mandate to govern, have the moral duty and a responsibility to ensure that those who are engaged in it are brought to book. President Mahama went after people he got information they were engaged. Example, the National Service Secretariat. The allegation, the instruction to investigate the National Service Secretariat came from President Mahama. When he got information that ABC is going there, he went ahead to investigate. Honorable Abu Gapeli, one person I have enjoyed working with, an outstanding person. Many people do not know the relationship between Honorable Abu Gapeli and President Mahama. They virtually grew up together. When there was a suspicion of some wrongdoings, he instructed that investigation be done in it. That is what we expect this talking president to do. He talks too much without action.
When we return from the break, we'll talk about Galamsey, but from the perspective also of livelihoods, the cocoa farms. Kojo Ponkroma has been engaged in the European Union on cocoa and coffee. Japan has rejected some of our cocoa, and that's our biggest forex earner. We'll talk about deforestation in the face of the fact that the Lands Ministry has been trying to plant trees, but then more trees are being cut. So cut tree, plant tree, is that what we're doing? When we return, we'll talk about all of those ones. It's also part of what His Royal Majesty mentions. See you after the break. Welcome back from the break. This is the Big Issue segment. My guest in studio, Andrew Ejapa Mensah. He is a lawyer. He's also Deputy Minister for Energy and the Member of Parliament for Sekunde constituency in the Western region. And Comrade Murtala Mohammed is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. He's also a former Deputy Minister for Trade. Now, I want us to focus on this. Harry, play the Ibrahim Abubakar story for us quickly.
Just a year ago, this bare land was littered with cocoa, but today it has been ravaged by the hunt for gold by illegal miners. Several cocoa farms in the Kunsu traditional area have suffered the same fate. Akwesi Fodio has been growing cocoa for the past 20 years. Proceed from the cash crop has been his main source of income until now. The father of 6 has leased part of his farmland to Galamsey operators.
You see this piece of land, I took over about 300 million from it. Just 2 months. I built my own 2 rooms at Wadi Makasi, but I worked 20 years without buying even a single plot. Now I have my own premises. So I rely myself on the gold more than cocoa.
He appears unperturbed, cutting down his cocoa trees.
Government can never stop Galamsey in this Ghana at all. I have the gold, I have plenty money in my pocket, so I don't mind cocoa. Look, I'm now cutting it off, you see. It is my own bonafide property, nobody can stop me to stop cutting my own cocoa tree. Are you planting for me? Planting for you, food and job, am I involved?
The 62-year-old is among many farmers who have sold their cocoa farms to these miners. Illegal mining continues to thrive in some cocoa growing areas due to what many consider to be lack of enforcement. Here at Konsu, it is common to see these miners digging and scavenging for gold when you walk through several cocoa farms. Between 20
that's Ibrahim Abubakar's story, and you heard the farmer is telling you what his losses are. Somebody asked me the other time, those who plant cocoa, and we have done stories here where we went into some of the cocoa farms and they've never seen a bars of chocolates before, but they have worked for 30 years on the cocoa farms. Bobo, this is it. We're planting trees, somebody's cutting trees, and we're talking deforestation, we're talking the effect on the environment, we're talking about water shortage, we're talking galamsey. And this is the reality.
Yeah, so it's surprising why we would, still dwell on the kind of language that clearly doesn't take us anywhere. Because you make statements like the president is an accomplice. You tempt me to go into the era of Mr. Mahama. And then we can pose the same question as to whether when these activities were taking place under his governance, he was also an accomplice.
He acted.
But I won't go there, because His Excellency the President has acted. Albeit, there are still challenges. Okay? You cannot say that this government hasn't taken any action in the fight against galamsey. We haven't succeeded, I agree. But there's a lot of action that is taking place today. It's taking place over the past 5 years. Small-scale mining activities was actually stopped. It had an impact.
2 months.
See, it wasn't 2 months. It was in excess of 2 years. Okay? But I'm not going to go there because I think that we should elevate the discourse.
I'm told that after this story...
It's a problem.
I'm told after this story, some members from Cocoa Board visited this farmer, but it doesn't look like he wants to change his mind because
I agree.
He's looking at what he's been able to achieve in a year or two.
I agree.
And in 20 years comparable, he doesn't think that it makes
I agree. But if that's the argument, then whether every cocoa farm where there's some traces of gold should not be cut down and dug out.
Looks like that's where we're going.
Well, I don't think that that's where we're going. Or even if some people are going there, no effort should be made at stopping people. Because, look, the truth of the matter is that huge chunks of land in Ghana is littered with gold.
Right.
But can we dig all of it? We can't. That's why it has to be controlled. That's why it has to be managed. So that at least whilst we dig some out, some is preserved for the generations that will come after us. Okay? So, yes, people are tempted to go into gold mining activity over cocoa farming. This is not new. I mean, I've heard stories like this over the past couple of years. And I think that the cocoa board leadership going in there to try and see what it is that they can do to encourage farmers to still farm as opposed to selling these lands to illegal gold mining. It's still the way to go.
They say, well, one sack is now 600. They want it to be sold at 1,002. They say pay them on time, pay them well, and when you have fertilizers, distribute it, evenly so everybody
all legitimate.
Can get it. So
all legitimate.
So we know what the issues are. We know where we take the syndicated loans, but do we give them to the people who deserve it to be?
I mean, so where does it go?
I don't know, because the farmers complain every time.
The percentage of cocoa, global price of cocoa that goes to farmers, I think it's in the region of 70-80%. Okay, the 20% is what they use for the transportation and the administrative issues that Ghana Cocoa Board then manages. And so if you say pay them well, pay them on time, we ought to be able to demonstrate whether what the Cocoa Board generates from selling this produce, offshore, okay, it's not what goes to the farmers, okay, or that what goes to them is insufficient. But if it's pegged at the global price and they get in 70-80%, so that transporting it and other administrative things that ought to be done to take the produce to market is what the remaining is used for, then I would think that it's fair. Okay, if the fertilizer that they purchase that is distributed is part of the cost that Cocoa Board incurs, then that's fair.
You see, he was
fertilizer ought to go.
He was talking about the fact that
be delayed.
Something like Planting for Food and Jobs, he doesn't see himself as part of the whole structure. He doesn't see where he fits into the government's policy on agric, on cocoa expansion. He doesn't see himself in any of those things. Clearly, somebody has not been talking to him.
Yeah.
He's not been reached out to.
I agree. It's possible. Okay. And Johnny, some of these things, I always go back that if you're building a structure, you don't expect that all the feedback would, simmer down in a day or at a go. It takes time. But it ought to be continuous. People still ought to be educated. Okay. If he's already been farming for 20 years, obviously he wouldn't see himself as part of a program that is encouraging new entrants, if you like, into farming, for example. Okay, and so he may potentially see himself as outside of that scope. But the whole notion of Planting for Food and Jobs is what it is, that get people encouraged to do more farming. Government provide input and support. That obviously will be going to new farms and some existing farms that are rehabilitating and all that. Cocoa Board is on record to have provided some rehabilitation services to several cocoa farms over the past 4 or 5 years. It's a program that is ongoing, that they do consistently to support farmers within the cocoa space. Okay, and so some of these things, yes, it's good that is brought to the fore so that leadership can then act and ensure that what is lacking is put right.
Okay, correct. You heard the farmer.
Well, let me say that.
What runs through your mind?
It's important to state that if Ashawan, who was engaged in Galamsey, and you are a lawyer, a very good lawyer, this woman was being tried by a court of competent jurisdiction. The process was truncated. The woman was either sent out of this country or she was hidden somewhere at the Flagstaff House. Only God knows. Because we have had, contradictory, positions of officialdom. In one breath, she was deported. In another breath, she was repatriated. In fact, I did international relations at Lesiad, and I was wondering whether we can have differences between the deportation and repatriation based on the circumstances. So if all those things
happen, there's a difference. The lawyer said there's a difference.
Yes, I'm saying
repatriation
that
is voluntary.
In the circumstance, because the communication we got from government, in this case the senior minister, was that yes, they had to allow the woman to go because they didn't want to risk the Sino-Hydro deal, that disastrous deal, a deal that we are virtually giving up our mineral resources, only God knows for, which never made any sense. And I believe in the heart of your heart, you knew that deal was a disaster for this nation. That's why they see
how so?
Oh, privately you admit, but I know on TV you won't want to admit.
You are so unbelievable.
No, but it's true. It's true.
Speak for yourself, because
you are my friend. I can read.
No, you can't read anything for him.
So I'm
speak
saying
for yourself.
that. I'm saying that. Well, that is
the man is here. Why do you want to speak for him?
Because if you want to do your propaganda, do it, and then I'll rebut.
That is just by the fireside. Let me proceed on the content. You had Ashawan. This woman. Let's assume that she was actually deported. How did the woman get back to this country? The process was truncated. If the Chief Justice want to be angry about anything, these are the issues he should be angry about. Because it was an attack on the judiciary. The Ghana bar situation, I was shocked. No, honestly, I'm being honest with you.
Because it was the exercise of the Attorney General's power of nolli prosequi is an attack on the judiciary.
What happened?
These guys are unbelievable.
What happened?
The kind of comment, no, if you don't understand.
Please, can I finish?
Seek knowledge.
I don't need your knowledge. Keep
because
it.
How can the exercise of AG's power
I'm saying that
on Article 88 amount to an attack on the judiciary?
But Bobo, was there really no case?
No case.
Nolli prosequi is that.
Hold
on. Was there really no case against
Nolli prosequi means that the Attorney General is not interested in prosecuting the case. I'm saying no,
that's not true. That's not even true.
But that's exactly what
Nolli prosequi means that at that material moment you didn't have enough evidence.
No. Please.
Don't even attempt. It's not a prosecutor and acquitter.
No, don't even attempt.
Is it an acquitter?
Don't even attempt.
I'm asking you, is it an acquitter?
It's not going to help you. Look,
is it an acquitter?
Look.
Answer me. Is it an acquitter?
It's not an acquitter.
So on what basis did you deport the woman?
I'm saying that
on what basis?
Under the Constitution,
what are you talking about?
The Attorney General has the power to discontinue any action at any time.
That's not in doubt. Bobo, but I'm asking.
So that exercise.
I'll give you. Bobo, that power of the AG. Sorry, Bobo, that power of the AG is not in doubt. But I'm saying that the government has launched Operation Galam Stop, Operation Vanguard, Operation Halt 1 and 2, all of those ones. The government says we are fighting Galamsey. Then somebody is grabbed for engaging in Galamsey.
A foreigner.
And then the government's lawyer goes to tell the court, I am filing a nolli prosequi. I'm no longer interested.
Yes. Is it the responsibility of the government?
How do you marry the two to now get people to be interested in the fight?
We can agree to disagree, okay, on the propriety or otherwise of that action. Okay, the senior minister gave some rationale.
Right.
Okay, and as far as I'm
prosecuting her will not change our economic fortune.
So of course, thankfully, if you like, okay, she's within the grips of the law again, and indication has been provided that she's going to face the full rigors of the law. Okay, but I'm saying that let's not confuse the issues.
Which is usual.
Okay, because look, for me, we should be forward-looking. Issues.
You said here, Bobo. You said here before that crimes do not expire.
Yes.
Now, in the past, if we lived in a serious country, the senior minister, who is now the senior advisor to the president, should not be anywhere close to power, because consistently he has proven that his advice to the president and the things that he says regarding this fight against Galamsey particularly is not the best. How do you expect people to have confidence in the government whose senior minister, whose senior advisor to the president tells you that prosecuting the foreigner engaged in Galamsey, which we are trying to fight, will not change our fortunes, but Kojo Mensah caught in the pit prosecuting him will change our fortunes?
Well, I mean, look, no, without holding brief for anybody in particular, I'm saying that there are issues with the Galamsey fight.
Right.
What it is that we can do as a nation to advance the cause to protect our environment.
Thank you. Can I have
for the
my
next
turn?
generation?
You didn't answer my question.
We need to
You didn't
focus on
answer my
that
question
and move forward.
You didn't answer my question,
Johnny, let me state this. Nolo Prezuka is not an acquitter. You have a foreigner in your land who was arrested alongside other Ghanaians. And those Ghanaians were prosecuted. And that foreigner was the leader of the team of Ghanaians who were arrested for engaging in Galamsey. Then you go and file Nolo Prezuka, which is not an acquittal. You could have, if you didn't have enough evidence at that time against that woman, why did you deport that woman?
If you don't understand
please, don't even go there.
You expose yourself, and it's not my friend. I don't want you to demonstrate your lack of knowledge in these matters.
Is Nolo Prezuka an acquittal? Answer that question.
It's neither an acquittal nor a conviction.
Hold on. Granted, can I finish? So, granted, if you are admitting that it's neither an acquittal or not, on what basis did you deport that woman? Please. I'm not a lawyer. I have LLB, a very good class.
Sure.
No, let me make it very clear.
Sure that...
So let me make it very clear to him. This argument of don't go there. Okay. Ask you a simple question. You are admitting that it is not an acquittal. It is not an acquittal. That is what you are admitting.
But the question of acquittal or otherwise has not even arisen.
No, it has.
That's the point that I'm making.
It arose because you see.
How does it arise?
I'll tell you why. If it is not an acquittal, why did you allow the woman to leave this country? And that comes to the point I wanted to make. Hold on. The president is not the law. The president is not the law. I am saying that if you know it is not an acquittal, why did you allow the woman to leave the shores of this country? And it brings me to the response given by the senior minister. The senior minister said that they did that for economic reasons.
Okay.
That is the point I'm making. If you did that for economic reasons, are you telling me
Chinese
the senior minister cannot finish?
Please,
can I finish? Please.
We have to go.
Chinese embassy, the Chinese, I just told you, over 5,000 over 5,000 Chinese were deported.
Andrew Ejapamesa is the member of parliament for Sekondi constituency in the Western region. He's also a deputy minister for energy. Comrade Murtala Mohammed, he doesn't like to be called honorable, is a former deputy minister for trade and the member of parliament for Tamale Central. And today in business, 4:30 and 7 p.m., we'll tell you about the latest on the IMF talks. Government is talking with IMF. We'll also tell you why you should prepare to pay more for fuel as oil exporting countries meet this week. Plus, we'll tell you the real reason European Commission could ban cocoa from Ghana. Kojo Nkrumah has been speaking on cocoa and coffee. We know there's cyanide, there's mercury, there are all the chemicals in there. We were told in the past. We didn't listen. Now it's coming to us. China has mechanized farms and they are growing cocoa. Our great minister says we should not be worried because the quality they are growing is not equal to our quality. But let the retirees go. We'll see you after the break.